Now we're going to move into functions, classes, and pointers. And the first thing I'm going to do is start creating a few functions, and then we're going to see how they're used. So I've got a new project here, and below our using standard, I'm going to create a function that's going to return an integer. It's going to be sum num, int a, int b. And so to return an integer, I'm just going to put the type here. So similar to declaring a variable. Then I've got my function name. I then follow it with parentheses and parameters. So these are parameters that I want to manipulate inside of my function. And I'm going to close the body of the function with a brace. So in here, I want to add these two, and I'm just going to add them and send them back out. So I'm going to do a plus b. And then to send them out of the function, I'll do a return like that. And that's all that there is. Now I've got a very simple function declared that takes two variables that are typed as integers. So let's now see how we can use this. So down here in my main, I am going to declare an a equals 0. I'm going to declare a b equals 0 as well. And I'm going to have the user actually enter in a number. So please enter in a number. And then I'll capture this number and put it in A. I'll have the user enter in another number for B, so let's go ahead and do that. Please enter in another number. Now I'm going to take that and sum it. So int sum, I'm creating my variable sum to hold the integer being passed back from the function. So I'll do sum num, and all I have to do now is a, b. So there's no naming on the parameters you can see here. I'm just passing whatever they are into this function. And that in itself is enough, but we're going to create a function as well to show the output, so we don't have to type in cout with our arrows and quotes and everything every time. So let's create that function, and that one is going to be called show output. And it's not going to have a return type. So when there's no return type, what I'm going to do is void. And now I'll create my function name, show output. I want to take in an integer, which is our sum. All right, now I'm going to close this with the brace as well. So what I'm going to do is create the output formatting for this function. So it's not going to return anything. You just call it, pass in what you have, and then you get this display of information. So inside show output function or method, either one you want to call it. And result is we're going to put our sum in here, and we can do an inline like that. So let's go down here and call this show output sum. All right, let's go ahead and build it and run it. So you notice here our build failure, and we're being highlighted on the couts and cins. If I look over here at this light bulb, it says undeclared identifier cout. So what did we do wrong here? If we go up to the top, we can see we only have the standard library. So we do need to include our IO stream, and I'll build it and run it now. So that is great, builds, and we should be able to go ahead and move forward. So I'll have a 2 and a 5, then we should get our 7, of course. So inside show out function, result is 7. So there we go. Let's now create one for subtracting. So just basically another simple function. This is going to be subtract, also 2 parameters, so int b, int a, and close this off. And all I'm going to do here is return, and again, this is pretty simple, so just subtract the 2. And down here where we're calling our functions, we can actually copy this and just call subtract here. So let's see here, subtract is our subtract here. And that should, there we go, misspelling. And so we're going to actually use the same information from the user with the A and the B to do our subtract. So let's go ahead and run this. And actually, this is likely occurring because we're redeclaring this variable. We can reuse the variable. We don't need to redeclare it. So I'm going to remove the int on that and let this run. So we're going to do 5 and 2. So one is going to give us a 7, the other is going to give us our 3. So that's reuse of show output there. We don't have to do another input, and in reuse of the resulting variables we get from the user also. Now we're going to move into creating a class, which, let's say it's a math class. We can take these functions that we have here, which are disparate. So meaning they're just kind of floating around out there. You've got to call each one individually. There's no relationship to them. There's no grouping of some sort of data structure for them that they can just be inside. So we kind of have to know about them. If we had a class, it could contain these functions. It could also contain different fields or properties. So we are going to create that, and we're going to do it with the keyword class. So you'll notice the functions don't have a keyword function. They just have a type followed by their name. Classes are different. So rather than a type, you say class and you type in the name, which in this case is going to be math. Now the class is actually a type, so that's why we're not specifying a type before the class name, because it is going to become a type. All right, so we're going to create a section here called public, and I'm going to indent this out a little bit. And this means whatever's under public is going to be viewable to the outside world, so we can actually call these and use them. So we're going to have A and B that we can call and use. Now we're going to create what's called a constructor, and I'm going to do that like this. And NetBeans keeps wanting to push everything over. So this constructor is used whenever we create the class, and it can do things for us, like initialize certain things. So the way that's going to work is like this. So I'm going to do a this and hyphen arrow, and it's going to point to A first. So we're initializing A. I'm going to do the same thing, and you'll notice NetBeans is giving us hints on this because it knows what's going on. So I initialize my two variables. This is basically the class instance, which doesn't exist right now because it's just like a template of a class. It's not an instance because no one has created the instance. But when they do, this constructor runs, and when it does run, it's going to initialize variables like that. And you'll notice also we're not passing anything into that constructor. Now we can, so we can create a constructor that basically becomes optional for us, and we can pass values in. So we have our own values we want to send in here. We don't want to start off with zeros, for example. So in that case, we're going to do the same kind of syntax, and actually we can just copy this and paste it down here. So we need to now take our A and our B and assign them. So then you may be asking, well, how does it know the difference between the A and the B here and then the A and the B we're passing in, because they're named the same thing? And the way that works is with the this keyword. So that is separating the two different variables from one another. Okay, so we're on our way to creating this class. So we're going to stop here, and in the next video we'll continue with creating some functions for this class and see how to actually use it.